Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Hugo Breton. I'm a senior partner at Action Coach Halton, and today I'm here with Allan Behul, the co-founder of Alger Group, as my guest. We're going to talk about their business, their journey as business owners and entrepreneurs, challenges, best practices, and a deep down into what risk means to business owners. So very excited about this talk. And if this is your first time on the channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications when we drop new conversations just like this one. Um, Allan, welcome and thank you for being here today.
Well, thanks very much. It's a great pleasure to be here and have the opportunity to chat a little bit with your subscribers and with people in general in business, and hopefully we can get something out of the discussion. And it's really good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's start a little bit with, your journey. And I know we want to talk about the group of companies that you lead at Alger, but also Tap for Solutions. So guide us through what do you do?
Fantastic. Well, officially in Alger Group, I'm co-founder with a colleague, Gerardo Austenruten. So we really divide up all of the roles that we have. Formally, I take on the Chief Strategy Officer roles, and Gerardo takes care of the Chief Financial Officer role. But really, we're so interchangeable that there's a lot of things that we do that don't necessarily fall below that headline, but we're really more practical in terms of the application of things. So what we basically do is Alger Group is the, let's say, the overseer company for different business units. So what we do in these different business units or divisions, it depends on really what the customer or the client wants. We work B2B and B2C. So for example, we're both focused on business, but also on consumers. Also interesting in what we do in terms of the verticals in Tap 4 that you mentioned, Tap 4 Solutions. We focus on NFC technology, so near field communication. So if you imagine a lot of people today use their cell phones to pay something and they put their cell phone close towards, let's say, the reader at a point of purchase or a point of sale where they're buying something. That's the
Mhm.
technology that's being used. So what we do here is we apply it to different types of products. So for example, the wristband that I'm wearing today here, it has information that I set up on one of our online profiles where if somebody is lost, if you have somebody that has a medical condition, if they have something that, if they were in a situation that required immediate information, all the person would have to do is really, or the first attender, first aid person would have to take their cell phone, put it close to the wristband, and it gives the information of what's required. Now, you can put in whatever information you like. So the profile itself can be, for example, I could just say, Hugo has this allergy, please contact this number. So what we try to do and follow through really with Tap 4 Solutions is obviously helping people in different situations and even in terms of applying it to other things, which I'll mention, but also what we do is making it life a little bit easier. So you have access to that information quickly. It's something which is really applicable. So from the Top 4 solution side, excuse me, we can apply it to, for example, little pieces of, let's say, things of this size, which could go on the chain of a, or the collar of a dog or a cat. And again, it has information that you can put in that if they get lost, instead of putting up posters, instead of putting up things that, take some time and effort, you could do that in addition to having a tag where it quickly shows you the information. So again, somebody clicks on it with their cell phone and it says, this is Bobby. He's allergic to chocolate. Don't give him anything like that. Please call this number. So it facilitates it. So what we do in terms of Tap 4 is that we don't produce the actual devices. What we do is we provide the service, the profiles online, the support for it. So it means that really it can be applicable to anything. So I have at hand, for example, something that can be used either on luggage or on, for example, on running shoes. You put it in and then somebody can, again, have that same limited information that you as the user want to provide. So from that side, if we're looking at the units right now, what we're looking at in terms of the general public, it's Tap 4 with the solutions. We have different, obviously, divisions, and for sure, there's different aspects of it, but it really comes down to innovation and technology and communications.
Okay. Okay. And I like that it's very simple hardware, and then you're behind that, like making sure that there's flexibility and innovation in the
Absolutely,
service that you're providing.
absolutely,
Um, Great. And the applications, I think that there's so many applications. I love that you were showing earlier an example of getting a Google review for businesses, right? So just
absolutely.
having that there in the business at the
Sure.
counter, right? Because we typically, like as business owners, we typically forget to ask for those reviews, and just having that reminder and making it very
It's
that could be
it's exactly
life
that.
changing for us for a retail shop.
For sure, and it's a great point, Hugo, because it's really versatile and applicable to many things. From I'm just throwing it out there, real estate, restaurants. Restaurants say, well, instead of using a singular QR code, which only goes to that one specific thing, and then you have to, get another one. In this case, what we're looking at is the NFC allows you to do a re-editable profile. So, for example, if you say, well, today's menu is this. Tomorrow you can change it and you're not going through that whole the a little bit more complicated part with the QR. So it goes beyond QR. However, we're not discarding QR, quick response. We're not doing that. That's also available. However, with NFC evolution, this is where that technology is going. So that's what we're trying to do. But it's really, as you say, applicable to so many different types of businesses, types of things, from warehouses to storage to literally, if you said, yeah, I'm going to put this little sticker with all of the information that's in box one of moving day, and then by the time you get to the storage, you know what's in there. So you're not looking for what was in there. Did it change? I had to write it by hand. So really, there's a lot of stuff where it's applicable.
Mhm, mhm. Um, I had a couple questions on kind of the structure of the company. So one, you were saying that you and Gerardo are almost interchangeable, but for business owners that are thinking about a partnership or would like to find a partner to start the business, what was kind of the finding each other as partners, and how are you splitting up the work and the focus that you have in the company?
Absolutely, it's another great question. That when you look at a lot of things, it has to specifically do with that person. So they have a few obviously skill sets that are required. I mean, if you're doing finance, you're doing accounting, you need to have at least an understanding of what, or if not, then you outsource that profile. But generally speaking, in our case, Canada has a very long line of entrepreneurial initiatives and businesses. From my side, it's a mix from doing sole businesses that I've owned even in other countries, like in Mexico, through corporate things back into your own business. So there's that blend of that you pick up, and they say, well, these are the applicable things. So we met a few years back, so it's coming up to about 2.5 years roughly. In terms of, we knew each other here, and really just through, WhatsApp chats and community chats, and we stumbled across certain things, and then we connected, and then we said, well, let's take a look at this. So it was really emerging and creating a synthesis of skills and saying, okay, so let's do this. And even though, for example, we say, okay, I like doing promotional things, so we can do this thing. So I would take, okay, let me take care of this, and facilitating this part. And then, Gerardo would say, for example, I'd like to do this, but what about this? And then so we merged it and we mixed it. So there's really a symbiotic relationship of, okay, you handle that. I'm not going to put my attention to that. Just let me know what the result was, and then we start going into that collaboration. So again, from that side, it's really been working very well. So with that, Alger Group merged a lot of business divisions into it. So now we currently have 4 specific divisions, but it's still continually growing and evolving. And we've seen that it's been very positive. So I think really, if you would say, Hugo, what's the most important thing in it? That there's an understanding of the way business is being done, that you share that same common goal, that the same vision, the same objective is there. And so this really started with little, with little coffees here and there in the afternoon and the evening. And then all of a sudden it became, okay, well, let's formalize this. Let's do this. Let's look at
Mhm.
this. How can we provide this business to not only consumers, but also to business, also to government? So really there's such a wide range of that, but the most important thing is to have that common understanding and that common goal that we're both sharing the same vision.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. And I think that's a great segue because I was wondering, you have um you have all your group and you have these different divisions. So how have you managed to set a vision for the whole group um while saying, okay, but there's different strategies that can go in the divisions and I mean, imagine there has to be a match, right? That those divisions need to be under that umbrella strategically. Um, So what is the process to kind of figure out, okay, this requires to start a new division, and even to discard a lot of the ideas, because sometimes the challenge as entrepreneurs is you have so many good ideas, but you need to focus and say, okay, this is where we're going.
For sure. What we do is basically it's something where we look at that matrix between, urgency and importance first and say, okay, what of these things is important? What of these things is urgent? Everything seems to be urgent, but it's not. It's something where you say, and if you divide it up into a really little simple little matrix or a little graph, you could say, well, what is absolutely urgent? What is the thing that really impacts us? It has to be, this permit or this license or this. Okay, so that's urgent. I mean, that has to be done. It's important to get product marketing out there. However, not as urgent as having, the actual right permit or license to do so. So that's a really simple example because a lot of times it gets into a gray area where everything seems to be urgent. But
Mhm.
when you divide it up, that's that first step where we take and saying, okay, so these are the nice things to have in short term, but in really super short term, as in yesterday, we need to do this. So that's where we focus on that part. Of course, it's a really good observation, like you say, between the business units and the divisions. How does that follow that same strategy? Ultra Group is like, as I mentioned, it's like the aegis under which everything, all the other business units align themselves. So the same strategy of helping people, the same strategy of making life easier, the same strategy of doing it in a way that benefits people, that trickles down to every single division. So it doesn't matter, what we're doing or what's the technology. It all comes back to that same vision which each part of it carries. So really that's where we ensure that all of the things that we do under the name of each division ensures that we're following that same lines, we're following the same things. So there's a harmony between the divisions. So there's not somebody there that says, well, this is the black sheep of the division. So it's not going to follow any of the protocols. And no, we pull everybody into the same group and we say, listen, this is the idea, this is what we're working on. And as you mentioned, there are some things that are very specific to one division. There may be, um, for example, more marketing required for Tab 4 solutions as opposed to, Algae Group itself, because the Algae Group is really like that corporative backing to it. So a focus of marketing would be more on those types of things than actually saying, well, what's the promotion for Algae Group? So really, Tab 4 solutions would be something where that would be. But again, it's creating that harmony
Mhm.
between the units and the people to ensure that everybody's on the same thing, the same page, and then we just keep going forward towards the short-term, long-term goals.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And let's talk a little bit about people because it's one thing to for some of in our audience to say, hey, I'm now moving from being a solopreneur to starting a team. But it's a different level of challenge when you have all the different divisions. So what was that process to start saying, okay, now this division, th there needs to be a team and start growing that. So what's been your process to grow a team to care for all the different solutions that
For
you offer?
sure. What we really do is we look at in the hiring and the recruiting of people and the selection of people, we look outside of that normal scope. So of course, as I mentioned, for accounting, you need to have somebody that's good with numbers. I mean, you don't necessarily want to hire a painter and say, well, he's a great painter, but he's not an accountant. So of course, for very very subject matter expert positions or knowledge positions, that has to be inside of that profile. However, we also look outside of that box and we say, okay, so what are these things that this person could apply? Well, they're a good facilitator, or they're a person that would be a good liaison for government bodies, or they have experience with this. So we cater that towards that. And more than anything else is how does that person harmonize inside of the group? How does that person work? I mean, they can have a beautiful profile and a great, background professionally speaking,
Mhm.
but they would get in the first day and they would say, well, okay, they want to do this and this, and they say, well, okay, that personality is not necessarily the one that's combining with the way the group functions. So what we consider is always having that, for sure, as I mentioned, the subject matter expert things, technology platforms, cloud support, you need to have specialists. So we select specific people for specific roles. When we get into that, let's say that personality side, then we're starting to look at, okay, what type of person is, how is that leadership, that we try to permeate in the organization. So, if I look at from my own experience in from doing things that are my own businesses to going through corporations, going back to small businesses or medium businesses, um, the number has been from 600 people that I've had under my responsibility to 5 people or 10 people. So it varies. It's not better or worse. It's just depending on what's the actual industry that you're in. Having the ability to select that team, I would say the final result or the expectation would always be the hope that you groom them into something where they become an all-star team. That is your A team. That is your all-star team. Each person is integrated, and they bring something to that table. So that would probably be the goal for the best thing to have. What type of people inside of our team?
Mm, okay. Now, you mentioned marketing and how things could be different depending on the division. So let's talk a little bit about that, and maybe let's make it specific to Tap Forward Solutions. But um, as you started defining which marketing strategies or lead generation um, to use, what was the design of that, and what are the channels? Given also that these are products that can have so many different applications, right? And they could be B2B, B2C. So what does the marketing strategies look like for Tap Forward today?
Again, it's a really good point how you said it. I mean, it's a good question and observation that it is really specific to what is required, because really B2B and B2C not necessarily follow that same line. They're both customers and clients at the end. However, a business will look at, okay, so how do I do this? Create this from scratch, do this project. We want to apply these devices to our business, and we want to customize and personalize it. Fantastic. It goes really, really specific ad hoc to that customer or client or the business. Because it's to consumer as well, somebody can say, well, I want that for my dog because my dog keeps getting lost. He has a tendency to innate tendency to get lost all the time. So it caters specifically to that person. So being able to have a marketing strategy where you say, how are we going to do this without getting bogged down in a 5-year plan where you say, well, in 5 years we'll be ready to do marketing. I mean, it's impossible. I mean, we would say, what can we do today? So we look at specific things in the industry that could be of interest, and then we go towards that. So you really start dividing up, okay, these are the type of businesses that have pages in LinkedIn, they have their own things, they do this, they're really heavily focused on the corporate thing, so the corporate side. So we look at those structures of how do we get closer to these to these companies. So again, chamber of commerce meetings, luncheons, these type of things where you say, what's the business, what are potential clients or customers that could benefit from this. From the consumer side, we look at it as, okay, this product can go here, so let's do this through Amazon, for example, because what's the chance of somebody buying something in Amazon? It's pretty likely. So would they be interested in having something for their dog or for their cat or anything like that? Yes, so we focus more on that. So again, because of course, as a starting business, we don't have that division specifically of saying, well, this is the marketing team. Again, so we divide it up between, myself, Gerardo, and a few individuals. We say, okay, what type of ideas, what are we doing with this, what's the biggest impact that we can do without breaking the corporate account and say, well, we spent everything on marketing, so great, and let's now wait. No, I mean, we try to find that balance. So I think, Hugo, as we evolve with that, we start seeing very specific things that start to be tendencies. So we're very precise in terms of where we're going to invest the money into marketing. Where are we going to do this in terms of having the biggest exposure to this? So it's really selecting in specifics. At present moment, we really go from the macro to micro, and we keep going back and forth between the two, depending on really what the product is, what the device is, and who's it catering to. And I think that marketing strategy will obviously evolve, and that's something that as we go along, it'll start getting more in an established sense.
And that's something that resonates, like discussing with clients, really think who you're going with. In your case, it's very different B2B to B2C, and then prioritizing those marketing strategies with the resources, the skills that you have in the team. So I like very much the idea of looking at trends and then saying, okay, this is working. Let's double down here and put some more focus.
Sure.
Um, Let me switch gears because I know that you've started different businesses. Some in what I would say very adventurous areas or risk areas. And you were mentioning the role of risk as part of entrepreneurship. Can you expand on risk and managing that risk?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think as a taboo, Hugo, a lot of times when you hear the word risk, it automatically brings up these images of horrible things happening. Uh, we're in bankruptcy. We can't pay this. We can't pay the employees. We can't, even worse. I mean, it starts getting into, security things, and you say, oh, wow, this is just a horrible situation. And it can be, of course, risk is that, because it's inherently equal to somebody thinks that it's something bad or something that, and it can be, of course, on that the perception of it. What I like to do, and what we try to focus on with with Gerardo, is when we're looking at a risk, it's not necessarily avoid the risk. It's which risk do we take? What's the contingency plan for it? So handling risk on the corporate side, that word shouldn't create that tension where you think, oh, it's a risk. It's too risky. It's too risky. I don't want to do this. I don't want to invest in a hedge fund because it's going to do this. And might be good for you, might not be good for you. You need to analyze it a little bit. It's the handling or the actual administration of the risk that actually works. So you can look at risk in four ways. You could say, I avoid the risk. Okay, what's an example of that? And I have a extensive background in gold and silver, as I think I commented before in our chat, um, in Mexico, for example. So a lot of times people say, well, it's insecure to do mining because you're in remote areas. Yes, of course it is. How do you avoid that risk? Well, I turn off the lights and I don't do mining in Mexico. So I solve my risk problem. Yes, but you're not doing a business. Now that's again, that's an extreme case. Mexico has very specific situations and as such. But let's say in a company, you would say, no, I'm willing to take that risk. Okay, if that happens or there's something there, how are we going to mitigate that risk? So mitigation is always a word that people love to use in things, and it's really just means to reduce that risk. How do we approach that risk? How do we make it less impactful? So what's my plan for this? If this happens, what do I do? And these are my one, two, three solutions. So you can actually, if you said, well, I'm gonna avoid the risk, I'm gonna go through mitigating the risk, a lot of times you can actually transfer the risk. And transfer usually means that I'm sort of washing my hands of the risk and I'm going to let a third party do this. And what's a really easy example of that? You say, I have a warehouse and I need security personnel. Instead of me hiring headcount for the company, for the equipment, for the training, for to ensure that they have, the proper gear and everything, I would say I'm transferring this risk to a third party security provider. So what does that mean? Am I not responsible? Yes, I am. Of course, it's my property, it's my situation. However, everything that happens in terms of security is handled by that third party. So you're really transferring it. So that's one thing that you don't have to think about. Well, I'm going to transfer this to the security guys and I don't have to think about it. That's another way of doing it. And the final one is really just accepting the risk. I'm going to accept it how it goes and let's say what happens happens. From our side, I would say really, well, we're not the type to say that, ah, well, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. We think if we're going to say that that's going to happen, we'll have a backup plan or a contingency plan. So I think looking at risk that way, you no longer have that stigma or that idea of, oh, it's something bad and I shouldn't take it. Maybe there's a risk that you should take. Maybe you should do that partnership. Maybe you should take that risk, and these are the things that you can do. So I think handling or having a good plan about risk management is always beneficial to any kind of company, regardless of the size. So whether it's a coffee place, whether it's a restaurant, whatever it is, you just say, is this a tolerable risk for me or not? And if it's tolerable, there's nothing wrong with taking it. Have a backup plan. Have a continuity, business continuity plan. Just to ensure that you don't go into that mindset of risk equals bad, and I'm not going to do anything, because that risk could have actually been super beneficial for the company. So.
Yeah, I like that last phrase um, because I can see scenarios in which just avoiding the risk would um would be keeping you from opportunities and just neglecting and not having a plan. You know, risk is there, right? So um being aware of it and managing that sounds like the fantastic approach to it. So as we start wrapping up, you met 2.5 years ago. You mentioned kind of that 5-year plan. So I was wondering, what's your vision for the group, Alan, in the next 3 to 5 years?
The vision obviously, aside from you go helping people and really having products that really do benefit them and do make things do help them solve problems and situations, is where you would say, for example, in a division, you would say, yes, I see something of top four and I recognize it. Oh, it's something that, yeah, isn't that bracelet that helped find that person that was lost? Yes, that's the one. Isn't that the one that my neighbor used to find their cat? Yes, that's the one that was there. So having it so or that exposure where people make the equation and say, look, top four does this, and we can see that it has that benefit for people, and as the company evolves, we're always looking and striving towards making it better, making it easier, making it less complicated for people. I think that would be that's that vision that keep pushing it forward and really making a difference in terms of saying, well, wow, we just helped this small city municipality resolve their issue with this, and this is something where I could see that, wow, that would really be that final that first step of the final vision, and then how
Mhm.
it evolves into that next step.
I like that it's all about making lives and making communities easier, right? So great. So when we share this, we'll share information about the group and your social media.
Super.
Um, and with that, I want to thank you for your time and all your experience and advice and being here for the Business Spotlight series. So thank you so much,
Well,
Ellen.
well, thank you very much. It was an excellent and a great pleasure to chat and see that there's a lot of initiatives in the business community, like your podcast and your publications that really aim towards helping people evolve in their business initiatives and objectives. That's great. So kudos to you. That's great. And thanks very much. Anything else, we'll be in contact, and moving forward in the business community and improving things.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks.